Hey, Saber boards. So there's been 100 different videos on how to wire the tri-crees, and it's pretty easy to find. So why am I doing this video? Simply because I want something in extreme high definition for my own reference for down the road, and to help out some of my friends that are also trying to learn how to do this on their own. So this is more for them than anything, but I figured it might help somebody else as well. I can't believe how many times I've seen these tri-crees that have just been gobbed with solder all over the place. A lot of people seem to think that more is better, but that's not the case when it comes to these tri-crees. This here is a tri-cree. We have a blue, and a white for the flash-on clash. So what we're going to need here, of course, we're going to be wiring this up in series and not in parallel. I'll do a separate video for the parallel wiring. I'm going to do this into series because this is going to be going into a Saber that's running a Crystal Focus 8.0, which of course uses the 7.4 lithium-ion batteries. So you're going to need the tri-cree, obviously. You're also going to need your choice of wire. Now I use 28 gauge wire now, thanks to the guys on the boards for recommending this. You can use 30. It's a little small in my opinion. You get a little heat through there, but 28 for me seems to work really well. It's very small. It's very easy to work with. And this particular stuff is apparently a military grade wire from what I've been told, and I can kind of tell by even just trying to get the cover of the wire off is very difficult. You have to heat it first and then remove it. But it's excellent wire. You will also need, of course, a soldering iron. Now, boy, I can't stress enough. Yeah, the highest temperature soldering iron out there is usually about 700 or 800 degrees, maybe a lot hotter, especially if you get into welding. I use the Hakko soldering iron, the FX 8D, which is pretty well known to be one of the best you can get. It's made life much easier, but this does not mean that you can't use a lower wattage soldering iron. I just prefer this because I can set the heat myself. Okay, so this is going to be run in series, so let's get started. Now, usually I would be using a set of helping hands. Ironically enough, that is being used right now to hold my phone, which is doing the recording. So, got my tri-cree all ready to go here. My soldering iron has been heated to 700 degrees. So we're just going to tin the contact points. We're not looking for a lot here, guys. We just want to get a little bit of a bead going for later on. So, here's what we do. Okay, hopefully you guys can see that. So I'm going to touch the soldering iron to the positive. I'm going to leave it there for about 2 seconds. Then I'm going to add the solder to it. I'm not going to goop it on. Then I'm going to let go, and then I'm going to let go. And if you notice, we have a little itty bitty tiny bit of a bead of solder on that positive. And then of course we'll do it for the negative. Same thing, you just set the soldering iron on there, feed in a tiny bit of solder, and then let go. You don't want too much. There's no reason for this to be overcoated in solder. Just keep going on that. Okay. And we're just going to go all the way around. A little bit of solder. Just get a nice bead for a nice connection later. Be looking nice and clean. And there we go. Doing it this way also prevents any of the contact points from hitting each other, which is sucky when it gets messy. Then you have to use a desoldering tool. It's not fun at all. Now the next step that we need to do is we need to bridge these two bottom connections here. Hopefully you can see that. Get my camera to focus for you. There we go. You can see that we have the negative and the positive at the very bottom. Now these two are going to be connected together so that we're running this LED and this LED in series. So we need to make a joint that goes across here. Okay. The way that we do that, there's multiple ways you can do it, but the way that I do it is I have a look and I see exactly how much wire I need here. Okay, it's not very much at all. Okay, and then I'm going to heat the wire up because this surface coating does not come off very easily. And just get her kind of warmed up there. Now I use these snips that will actually just take the top right off. Just like that. Okay. I'm going to take my soldering gun. Get her all cleaned up here. Always make sure that you're cleaning off your soldering gun. You don't want a bunch of old crap solder that's burnt out on there, so it looks nice and clean, very nice and clean. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to tin this section. Just like that. Okay. Nice and pretty. Then I'm going to take this and I'm going to cut with just a pair of scissors, doesn't have to be anything special, exactly the distance that I need to bridge those two together. I'm going to do that. Okay. Now, with a set of pliers, or not pliers, tweezers here, I'm going to check it out and see the size, and it looks pretty good. Okay. And because we've tinned this, it's very easy and very quick for us to simply set this on one side, give her a tap, let go. Okay, that's one side done. Then we just manipulate this just to make sure it's joined and really, really close. Okay, like that. And with just a simple little tap, we finish this side. Now, because my soldering gun is so hot, it doesn't take much. It's pretty much immediate. Now, those two connectors, there you go. The positive and the negative are now joined together to make a series connection. So this means that we can actually just have 2 wires coming off for both of the LEDs as opposed to having 4. So now we take another piece of wire here. Okay, I'm going to take off a little bit of the material. You don't need to let it on there much. You just have to let it, let it heat up a little bit. And then pull the top off. Oh, not quite perfect. There we go. Let me see. We have that right there. Take our soldering iron. We're going to tin the ends. Just like that. You don't need a lot at all. Now here's the trick where it is less is more. We're going to trim this now so that it is extremely small. You don't need a giant connector onto these. So all I'm going to do, okay, I'm just going to leave a tiny bit exposed. Just a little tiny bit there. Of course, the next step is we're going from the positive here. Okay, so now we are simply going to take our soldering iron. Just make sure it's nice and clean. Okay, we're going to line up, so you guys can see it there, with the positive. And we're going to make sure that the alignment is directly for the center hole. We're just going to give it just a little tap. Solder's going to melt itself really quickly. Just give her a hold. And just do a quick little test to make sure it's not going anywhere, which it is definitely not. Okay. Then we move on to the negative side. So once again, we take our wire. Obviously, I'm going to use a negative style color now. And we're going to just heat up the end. Just a bit. Doesn't have to be a lot. And we're going to take our strippers here. I'm going to give a pull. Okay. Same as before. Do some tinning on the ends. Clean off your soldering iron. You always want to have nice, clean, clear solder. You don't want to have it all gunky and black. It could have some cold solder joints. No good. So you just put the soldering iron underneath the wire, not on top, underneath. Just a little fall on it. Okay. Nice and tinned. Once again, take my scissors. Trim this really small, does not need a lot. You don't want really any exposed wires out of there either. You want everything to be covered up properly. And same thing, I'm going to go right across because I'm planning on using the center hole. The nice part about using this size of wire is simply fits down the hole. So you line that up a little bit. It can be a little tricky. There you go. And just hit that with the soldering iron. Now, you don't have to do this long. Let's make sure it's clean. Do not have to do this long. Just give a little tap. So how it fell in there, and you let go. Give it a second. Give her a little tug. Make sure she's all good, and that's not going anywhere. And then we simply take the wires, go down the center hole here. Now be very careful. You do not want to twist these wires. You know, give them the best chance they can to not be stripped. Okay. There's the first one. And there's the second one. Okay. So this is what you should have so far. Okay. We have the bridging at the top with the plus and the minus for the blue and the blue. We have the positive to the positive side here. We have the negative to the negative side here. And we have it down the center hole, which of course we will put into the heat sink in a little bit here. So just for completion's sake, we're also going to wire in the flash on clash. And of course this is a white for the flash on clash. It's got a positive here and a negative here, which is separate, of course, than the other LEDs there. So what we're going to do, I prefer, just like Genesis custom sabers, gotta love those guys. They prefer using a different color completely for the flash on clash, just for wiring up later, which makes absolute sense. So for the positive, I'm going to use orange, and we're going to do exactly as we did before. I'm going to line this up at the center. This is the positive side, of course. And we're just going to really quickly here hit that. It's going to sink. Go right over top of our wire. Just like before. Give her a hit. Solder will melt very quickly and let go. Give her a tug. We're all good. Now we can go ahead and, of course, run all the wires directly through the center of the hole. And once you're done that, of course, everything's down the center. You have a really beautiful, really nice clean star. Let's get the camera to focus there. Everything's all organized. I like the center hole because it prevents things from getting caught on and ripped out when you're actually putting the lens cover on. And of course, let's move on to the next part. Now we go with the heatsink installation. You're going to need a thermal pad. Now, this is not the best quality thermal pad I'm using right now. It's just for the demonstration. Shout out to Cal at KR Sabers. He sells pretty much the best pads. They're adhesive. They're excellent. They're just on the way right now, so I'm just going to use an old pad that I have just so that you guys can see how it's done. You'll need, of course, your lens, which is where the magic happens to make sure it goes up the blade properly. Then you've got your 2 halves of your heatsink. I use the Solos Hold heatsinks. I think his products are amazing. And you get, look at this, look at how thick this big, yummy heatsink is. This thing will dispel a ton of heat. So, first steps. We have this all wired, we're ready to go. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of this for now. Now, this doesn't matter. You can either apply this to the bottom of the heatsink yourself, or sorry, to the star yourself, or you can put it on the heatsink first. It really doesn't make a difference. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to line this up with the holes here. Like I said, I'm going to just clarify, this is not the best heatsink, or sorry, this is not the best heat pad. Just a sec. There we go. But for the demonstration, it will be perfectly fine. It'll work great. Okay. So we're set right in the center. We're going to take our cables. Okay. I'm going to go right down the middle here. All the way through. Okay, so we're just basically running everything through. We're going to get that star seated where it's supposed to, so that everything is absolutely lined up, looking really, really nice. Okay. It's very important that that heatsink pad is sitting on every part of that star, because you want that heat transmission to go through. You don't want to burn anything out. Now, I like the pads over using Arctic Silver or any kind of heat compound, simply because once you put this on here, it's not going anywhere. It's really, really firm, which is great. I prefer that myself. Okay. Now the next step, of course, make sure that you clean off your lens. Let's get it all nice and clean. You don't want it to be all bunky while it's in there. So I just use my shirt. Seems to work just fine. You're going to line up. Just sits on there like that. Not a problem. Okay. Take your top and you simply screw it right on there. Now be careful, because you want it to be a nice, you want it to go on there nice and smooth. If you're feeling any binding or anything, you know, just realign it and set it up again. Because you should be able to go all the way down without a problem. Okay, there we go. On there really well. And there you have it. That is a prepped and ready to go heatsink and LED. So of course, let's just fire it up really quickly just to make sure everything's okay and working well. First, now it's time for the moment of truth. Now guys, be very careful when you're testing these things, especially when you're looking down them. Just don't. I believe they're a class 3 laser. Somebody can correct me on that if I'm wrong, but this is blindingly bright. Don't stare at it. It's just not advisable at all. Just look away when you're doing it. It's without a blade on it, it can really hurt your eyes. Having said that, I'm going to look away here, of course, and we're going to fire it on. And there we have it. Beautiful, beautiful blue. You kind of have to see it in real life just to appreciate the brightness that's coming out of such a small piece. Is really, really incredible. And of course, just for completion's sake, we want to make sure that the flash on flash is working. It's very bright, so it actually looks like it blocks out the blue on camera, but it doesn't. In real life, you can actually still see the blue, but it's hard to see on the camera. And the flash on flash is working perfectly. The Solos Hold heatsinks, can't say enough about them. They're fantastic. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, it really doesn't matter. I can still pick these up. They'll be warm to the touch for sure, but my fingers will not be burning off. So there you have it, guys. That's pretty much it. This is only wiring, of course, for a series connection. This is not for parallel setups. This is not for a nano biscotti. This is only for serial. So for their series. So we're talking the crystal focus boards with the 7.4, or basically any setup that's running 7.4. I will also, of course, do a parallel video to show the difference, which isn't great, but there is some for running on the 3.7 boards as well. There you go, guys. As always, if you have any questions, please just contact me. I'm more than happy to help and answer. And thanks very much for watching.